As you progress in your journey as a smart contract auditor, it is essential to have a deep understanding of popular DeFi primitives. And perhaps the most common and important DeFi primitive is what's known as the automated market maker, or the AMM. AMMs enable permissionless trading on-chain 24/7 to anybody in the world, and it is absolutely the bedrock of DeFi. In this video, we're going to explore everything that you need to know about constant product AMMs so you can get up to speed on this DeFi primitive as fast as possible. My name is Owen, and over a year and a half ago, I founded Guardian Audits, and since then, me and my team have audited hundreds of smart contracts and uncovered dozens of critical and high vulnerabilities. And my goal is to take all of the learnings that I accumulated through thousands of hours of smart contract auditing and distill them down and give them to you so that ultimately you can become a much better smart contract auditor than I ever could be. All right, let's not waste any more time and get right into AMMs. All right, so first of all, there are many kinds of different automated market makers. For example, you have a constant mean market maker, or a constant sum market maker, or even hybrid function automated market makers, or dynamic automated market makers. But today we're going to dive into the most famous and the most commonly adopted AMM, which is the constant product AMM. So what even is a constant product AMM? It's essentially an equation, and the equation is just based on the supply of two tokens in a market. The equation is as follows: the amount of token X times the amount of token Y equals K, where K is simply a measure of the pool's liquidity. Now, of course, this constant product AMM was most famously implemented by Uniswap. But let's just walk through a swap to see exactly how this formula works. So we're going to begin with this exact X times Y equals K curve drawn out here. And we have a particular point on this curve where you can see we have 5 of the X-axis token, which is Ether in this case, and we have 25,000 of the Y-axis token, which is DAI in this case. And then you can see at this point on the X times Y equals K curve, we have a price of 25,000 DAI right here, 25,000 DAI for 5 Ether. And so that's a price of 5,000 DAI per Ether. And if we were to calculate the K value for this particular curve, for this X times Y equals K curve, we could use this particular point and plug in these values, right? So for X, we will plug in 5, and then we'll plug in 25,000 for the amount of token Y. And this yields us a K of 125,000. Now let's go ahead and envision what happens when a trader actually comes in and swaps on this curve, right? So we have another graph here where you can see we have our original point where the supply was 5 Ether in the pool and 25,000 DAI in the pool. And now what we've got is we've got somebody came in and they swapped, they put in 5,000 DAI, and they shifted the point on the curve to the left to this new point. So this change in Y, this dy, is this 5,000 value. And then there's a corresponding change in X, this dx, which is the amount that we moved to the left, which is the amount that the pool decreased the balance of this token X, which is Ether, which is essentially the balance that the trader got out after they put their 5,000 DAI in. So what we can do is we can actually use the X times Y equals K formula to compute this dx that was the amount of Ether that the trader got out for supplying this 5,000 DAI in. And so since we know this is on the X times Y equals K curve, and we know that K is not changing in this case, K is constant, we can basically plug in these values. So right here, I know that Y is immediately going to be 25,000 plus the 5,000 that the trader just swapped in. And then our X, our amount of token X, is going to be 5 plus this mystery DX that we want to figure out. And then of course this is going to be equal to the same K value that we calculated here. This is essentially where we get the name constant product, right? So while people are trading, this K value doesn't change, but the supply of each of the tokens does. And this is where we get the notion of price. Okay, so in my chicken scratch here, we've got 125,000 on the right, and we're going to basically solve this equation to be able to figure out what dx is, right? So what we'll do is we'll take 125,000 and we're going to divide it by the total supply of token Y, which is 30,000 after the trader has swapped in their 5,000 DAI. And so if we get our trusty graphing calculator, we can see that this is roughly 4.1666 repeating, which is going to imply that dx is roughly equivalent to 833. That's a rough 8. Okay, so I got 0.833 ether out of the swap when I put in 5,000 DAI. So we can actually take this and figure out exactly the price of the ether that I experienced during my swap. So we can say, just relating 5,000 DAI per the 0.833 ether that I got out. This is the rate at which I put in DAI to get out X amount of ether. So, and that rate, which is price, is roughly 6,000. We're going to say roughly 6,000. So this is 6,000, about 6,000 DAI per ether. So this is the price at which I experienced during my swap from DAI to ether. So now let's examine the other side of what an AMM does from a liquidity provider's perspective. So as you'll remember, during a swap, the K value did not change. It was just the amount of token X and the amount of token Y that changed when the trader was swapping from one token to another. So during a trade, the K value cannot change, but when somebody is providing liquidity, that's when the K value increases. And it makes sense, right? Because the K value is a product of the supply of each token in the pool. So if we increase the supply of each token, then we're going to have a larger K value. And I am stipulating that when the K value is larger, the swapper will experience less price impact, and so they'll get a better price execution for their swap. And we'll actually go through and prove this to ourselves in just a minute. So first of all, let's just walk through the process of what it looks like when we're providing liquidity and how we get LP tokens, right? And how that accounting side of things works. So first of all, let's continue with our example, and let's say that first there's a balance of 5 ether in the pool, and then there's, on the other side, there's a balance of 25,000 DAI in the pool. So the price of ether is 5,000 DAI per ether currently in this pool. And so if I'm a liquidity provider and I want to come in and provide more liquidity for this pool, I have to deposit at the same rate that each token is in the pool, at the same balance between 1 ether equals 5,000 DAI. So for every ether I provide to the pool, I need to provide a mirroring of 5,000 DAI so that I am not changing the ratio of the supply in the pool, and therefore I'm not changing the price when I provide liquidity. So let's say I want to provide an additional 5 ether, and I have to match that up with 25,000 DAI. And let's say that the Total supply, the total amount of LP tokens in circulation are 5 here. Okay, so the way that we can calculate the amount of LP tokens that we'll receive is by comparing the token amounts that we deposited relative to the token amounts that was already in the pool multiplied by the total supply of LP tokens. So we can do this with examining Ether. So there was 5 Ether that I'm depositing into the pool, and there was 5 Ether already in the pool, and then there are 5 LP tokens. So we have 5 LP tokens, and this is going to equal, of course, 5 LP tokens that get minted to me. And we can do the same exact calculation with DAI. It will give us the same answer if we have 25,000 DAI. This is what we're depositing into the pool. The pool already had 25,000 DAI. And then we multiply this by the total supply of 5 LP tokens. And this is going to give us the same answer, which is that we are going to get minted 5 LP tokens for depositing 5 Ether and 25,000 DAI into this pool. So now the 5 LP tokens get minted to me, and the total supply of LP tokens becomes 10 LP tokens. So I own 50%, I own 5 out of 10 of the total circulating LP tokens, and the pool has 10 Ether and 50,000 DAI in it. So if I burn my 50% of the LP tokens, I'll get 50% of what's in the pool, which happens to be the 5 Ether I put in and the 25,000 DAI that I put in. Okay, so let's examine the state of the pool and look at what happens now when somebody swaps in the pool after we've essentially doubled the supply of each token. So now the pool has 10 Ether after our deposit, and it has 50,000 DAI. Okay, great. So our x times y equals k calculation is now 10 times 50,000, which is of course 500,000. And so essentially we just saw our k get 4x, right? Because we doubled the amount of token x, which is Ether, and we doubled the amount of token y, which is DAI. And so now I'm claiming when somebody comes in and executes a swap that they're going to get better price execution because this K value is larger, because there's more liquidity of each token. So let's go ahead and walk through the math behind this swap right now. So first of all, we have 10 minus some dx. This is the amount that the trader gets out. And then we'll have 50,000 plus the 5,000 DAI that the trader's putting in. And of course, this has to equal our constant 500,000 K value, which stays constant during the swap. Okay, so we'll end up with 10 minus dx is going to be equal to 500,000 divided by 55,000, which is the new balance of DAI in the pool after the trader swaps in their 5,000 DAI. And so using our graphing calculator, this is roughly 9.09. And this is going to imply dx is going to be roughly 0.909, a little bit more than 0.9. And so this is the amount that the trader gets out of the swap, right? So before we'll notice that our dx value was actually 0.833. So when the trader swapped in their 5,000 DAI, they got 0.833 roughly Ether out of that swap. And now when they do the swap after increasing the K, the trader's getting roughly 0.9 Ether. And so now we can calculate the price, the exact price that the trader experienced during the swap. Say they put in 5,000 DAI, they got out roughly 0.9 Ether. And so this is going to give a rough price of roughly about 5,500 DAI per ether. So we experienced a much better price, 5,500, after adding more liquidity rather than the $6,000 execution price that we received before. So when you go and provide liquidity, you're providing a service to people swapping using that pool so that they don't get nearly as negatively price impacted because you've added more liquidity to the pool, you've increased that K value. So this is basically a passive way to provide value to the DeFi ecosystem and reap fees and rewards in return for doing so. However, there are some risks associated with being a liquidity provider. So first of all, in addition to just having exposure to the assets you're providing liquidity to, there is the classic risk of impermanent loss. And impermanent loss just refers to the relative loss that a liquidity provider experiences when the supplies of each of the two tokens in the pool diverges. And you've probably heard of impermanent loss before, and you've probably even heard that description, but you might not see exactly where it's coming from and exactly how the numbers work out so that an LPer actually does experience such impermanent loss. Right now, we're going to examine exactly how the numbers work out and exactly what impermanent loss is and how you can calculate it using our running example. So let's go ahead and start out. We've got our 10 ether on one side in the pool, and we have our 50,000 DAI. And remember, I deposited 5 ether and 25,000 DAI, and I received 5 LP tokens, which is 50% of the total of 10 LP tokens. So I own 50% of the assets in this pool. Now let's consider one large trader, or you could think about it as, many smaller traders or arbitrageurs that are coming in and swapping ether to DAI. But let's just say that over the course of time, 5 ether are swapped to DAI, right? So after all the math works out, we end up with 15 ether and 33,000 DAI. And I encourage you to go back and work through this on your own and see that you can get these numbers. Okay, so after all of the swap math works out, we'll end up with a pool balance of 15 ether and 33,333 DAI. And I encourage you to go back and look at how we're computing swaps and compute this result for yourself. But essentially, this works out to mean that the price of ether is corresponding to 33,333 divided by 15. We're going to say the price of ether is roughly $2,222. And so this means that if I now take my 5 LP tokens, my 50% ownership of the token X and token Y deposited into this pool, I will end up with 7.5 Ethereum, which is now worth 2,222 DAI, plus I'll get half of this 33,000 DAI in here. This is going to be 16,666 or so. We'll just call it roughly that. And so this is going to give us a total USD value of roughly, we'll just call it, since we rounded here, we'll just call it roughly 33,333. So this makes sense because, as you can see, this is equal to the amount of DAI that was in the pool here, and we want each side to be split 50% on this side, 50% on that side. So it makes sense that if I withdrew 50% of the pool value, I would have the value equal to one of the sides, or value equal to both of the sides. But when we put it in DAI, it is already in USD. So 33,333 is this side for DAI, and that's the value, the USD value that we withdraw when we withdraw 50% of the total LP. And so this is the amount that we get after we provide liquidity, Ether trades in this direction, and then we withdraw. But what if we had just stuck to holding our 5 Ether, which is now, of course, worth 2,222 at the current market rate that this particular market has been arbitraged to, or what have you. And then we also have our original 25,000 DAI that we had deposited into the pool. This is going to leave us with 5 times 2,222 plus 25,000, roughly $36,110 of value. And so this delta right here is called our impermanent loss. It is the loss that we experienced because we deposited into the pool, and as swappers or arbitrageurs swapped in the pool, we as the liquidity providers ended up with more of the token that decreased in value, right? You can see in this example we ended up with 7.5 ETH versus having less ETH and more DAI was more profitable. So when people swap their ETH to DAI, we end up with ETH, and ETH is sort of the losing token in this scenario because it is trading down. And so we can calculate the exact amount of impermanent loss that we experienced by just doing 33,333 subtracted 36,110, and this will get us an exact value of the impermanent loss that we experienced, and it's going to be, with all the rounding that we've done, roughly 2777. And so we have lost essentially $2,777 by LPing rather than simply having these two assets, the 5 Ether and 25,000 DAI, and just holding them. And that's essentially all you need to know about impermanent loss. As the pool trades in either direction, no matter what, the LPers will always end up with the losing token. And so no matter if the price of Ether goes up or the price of Ether goes down, there will always be some impermanent loss experienced, as just in general, the supplies of each token diverge. All right, that's all there is to the Constant Product AMM. Go ahead and watch this video back a few times and work through some of the examples on your own and make sure that you can get the same answers and really understand each step. And then you'll have a very fundamental, solid base that you can then hop off of to understand more complex DeFi primitives, which are built off of the Constant Product AMM, like Uniswap v3. Okay, if you want to find a place to sharpen your skills and learn more things like this with other people who are interested in becoming a smart contract auditor, then go ahead and check out lab.guardianaudits.com and apply to join our group of like-minded security smart contract auditors, where you'll get opportunities to team up with others and do what we call practice audits. So this way you'll get used to working with others and you'll get to learn the abundance of knowledge that we have in the community and start to make those really valuable Web3 connections. And if you're still not absolutely 100% confident in your security auditing skills, I actually helped to create the exact program that is going to help you get to 100% confidence and cover all things Web3 security, all things auditing related, everything that you need to know to be a pro smart contract auditor rolled into one easy to follow course that takes you from zero to an absolute smart contract auditing pro in one organized, step-by-step, efficient process. If that sounds like something that would help you out right now, wherever you are in your journey, then go ahead and take $50 off when you use my link in the description below to go and buy the smart contract hacking course. All right, that's all for this time. I'll see you in the next one.